We know that every 7 days we have a gift, which we call Shabbat. And that gift allows us to come together as community and to rest from the hard work that we were engaged in for 6 days. And our Torah reading this morning, beginning in Parashat Behar, and Behar meaning the mountain, finds the Jewish people of the time, our ancestors, still at the base of Har Sinai, still at the base of Mount Sinai, as they continue to receive more laws. And so laws that are added at this moment for them, and that we read this morning, also connect to the number 7. That just as human beings need the opportunity to rest, every 7 years, after 6 years of hopefully wonderful harvests in the land of Israel, on the 7th year the land shall rest. And while this is about the land resting, the laws connected to the years of Shemitah and the 50th year, the Jubilee year, the Yovel year, is even more so about human beings and about economic justice and about dignity. That every 50 years, after 7 cycles of 7 years, on the 50th year, any land, any ancestral land that was sold during those 50 years returns to its rightful owners. Anyone who became a slave because they had to sell themselves because they couldn't afford to live or had some debt they couldn't repay would go free. Every 50 years, things would return to the way they were meant to be. I think in our moment, in our context, we can connect to that idea that there are so many people suffering from poverty, so many people in our communities that are dealing with homelessness, finding themselves unhoused, and are really not finding the dignity that all human beings deserve. Our Torah portion really plays it out and says, Ki yamuch achicha. And I mentioned this before, that it comes up 3 times. Ki yamuch achicha. If you notice that a fellow Jew, another person who lives among you, had a bad break, is finding themselves having a hard time, the first thing is that you have to notice it. And the first example given is if somebody is experiencing a hard time and they have to sell their property. And we are meant to notice that sign. They have to sell their property. And it's not just like they're real estate moguls and they have to sell one little piece. This is what's given to them from one generation to the next. It is painful and they have to give it up. And the Torah says somebody is meant to come and be a goel. Just like we pray for God to redeem us, Ga'al Yisrael, someone, a family member, a community member is meant to step up and buy back their property for them so they don't have to lose it. But if that happens and they still have further bad breaks, which we often know, things happen in cycles. And again, the Torah says, V'chi yamuch achicha. If somebody's position is weakened, if they have another bad break, and now they come to you for support, you have to take care of them. You can't ignore them, and you especially can't take advantage of them. You can't charge them interest. You can't make them feel badly. And you have to treat them like an equal, even though they are having a hard time financially. And then the Torah continues, V'chi yamuch achicha, and if their situation becomes so dire that they have to sell themselves, you still have to treat them like an equal. They have to be allowed to have their rest that is due for them on Shabbat. You can't give them overly difficult work. You have to maintain their dignity despite all. We don't actually own people because, as the Torah says, all of us are slaves only to one, and that is to God. And we have to take care of one another. We are told over and over again, yamuch achicha, when your fellow is struggling, we have to notice it and we have to do something about it. This was a busy week here at Bet Tzedek. On Tuesday night, we hosted Idan Amedi, the Israeli musician and one of the stars of Fauda, a really wonderful actor. And he also decided, although he didn't need to, that after October 7th, movie stars don't need to go and fight and don't need to do miluim, reserve duty, but he went and he did it anyways. And he was an example of doing the thing that needs to be done when we feel weak and scared. And he fought, and he got gravely injured when a tunnel that was being exploded in Gaza, a huge tunnel, exploded a little bit too early, and he was injured among a few others, and 6 soldiers were killed that day. And Idan Amedi has used his power and his voice to amplify the experience of soldiers who are dealing with PTSD and continue to suffer long after their wounds heal. And for those of you who are here this week or who had the opportunity to see images of his wounds, it actually also demonstrates the incredible ability of our beautiful human bodies to recover and heal, and then the work that needs to be done to ensure that we are emotionally and mentally healed as well. And that takes a long time. In our sanctuary on our bima this week, we were also joined by Rachel Goldberg Poland and John Goldberg, Hirsch's parents, who continue, despite the horrible pain and suffering that they experienced this year, first trying to bring Hirsch home alive, and then knowing that that wasn't going to happen, they didn't stop. And they continue to see and to say, our people are suffering, there is grave weakness, our people are in dire straits, ki yamuch achicha, and they have continued to speak out in the most beautiful ways. And at the end of their talk this week, somebody else reciprocated in kind. 97-year-old Holocaust survivor Nate Leipziger. And if you weren't here to see this in person, you haven't seen it online yet, you should. Go find this video. This 97-year-old jumps up onto the stage, onto our bima in the sanctuary, and gives them a hug. And if you know Rachel, you know that her one rule when she is speaking, the person introducing her usually says, "Please don't hug Rachel." She has been able to withstand so much, but she actually can't handle your hug right now. But Nate jumps up onto the stage, and Rachel received this hug fully. And we all got to watch as she let herself go for a moment and cried in his arms. He noticed the suffering, and he did something about it. Ki yamuch achicha. I want to share one more example of this week. Thursday, which was an extremely difficult day for us, a day in which we learned really the names of the 2 young people who were murdered the night before. Yaron Lachinsky and Sarah Lynn Milgram, Zichronam Livracha, were murdered in D.C. as they were leaving an event focusing on peace and their connection to Israel. And on Thursday, on the day that we learned their names, our city council here, and it wasn't easy to get to that point, passed the bubble legislation that hopefully, if used correctly, is going to make us safer in our synagogues, in our schools, and in all religious spaces of worship. And that too was an example of people saying, Ki yamuch achicha, when I see those among us who are suffering, who are afraid, we are not going to be silent. Council member Bradford, who is not Jewish, but a wonderful ally to the Jewish community, and others stepped up and worked hard. Jess Burke, one of our moms today, who was just a mom today, celebrating her daughter's birth, also works for CIJA, for Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs, who's been an incredible activist and advocate within our community, in queer circles, seconded to the TDSB for a long time to make change there as well. And we need people like Brad, and we need people like Jess, and we have to recognize them when they do, in fact, stand up and do the really hard work that is needed. So friends, as I end my words this morning, I just want to remind you, we have a vision in our Torah, and we should be looking at it for what it looks like to care for community, what economic justice can look like, what a really caring community can look like. But it requires all of us to notice people who maybe didn't come to shul this week and who need a phone call. Notice people who might be struggling, and also on the larger communal issues. Notice when we need to stand up, when we need to be strong, we need to be proud, and we need to show that actually just a few people doing really good work can matter. I really bless us all with a month of peace and of joy and of care. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.